Right, we'll get underway. Welcome to the Tasman District Council meeting. Noting, so it is being live streamed. So unlike the previous term where you would see up there on Zoom a whole lot of people who have joined the meeting externally to follow proceedings, you now won't see that. But I'm trusting to faith that out there in the great Ethernet that we are live streaming. So just note the slight difference in terms of what you'll see on the screen. So I'll open with karakia. No maina kōrero, tau mai te wānanga, kia marino ki tai, kia mahia ki uta, homeo hui tai ki. So as I noted, live streaming, so still utilise microphones, etc. when speaking. For those, again, I guess I won't probably do this at every meeting, but for those who are new, obviously location toilets and fire exits out the door at the back. Media are not currently present, or they may be watching on the live stream, but we can't tell because unlike a Zoom meeting, you can't see people on the screen. And that is pretty much it in terms of kind of the intro. So we'll now move on to the body of the meeting. I don't think there are any apologies. I think everyone is present, so no apologies. I'll now move on to the public forum. So we have one person registered to speak in public forum, so Gary Polwart. So Gary, if you'd like to come up the front. Gary's speaking about the Tapawera Hub. Welcome, Gary. So you've got 5 minutes. I'll give you a little ding on this bell at about 4.
Okay, thank you.
So, no worries.
We hear me? Good morning, everyone. Thank you. My name is Gary Polwart. I've lived in Tasman since 2016 and in the Tapawera area for the last 5 years. I'm involved in community activities, teaching sport to kids and adults, and in Tapawera itself. I've delayed my plans this morning to travel to Alexander and come here this morning to let everyone know that the planned Tapawera Hub is dividing our community. There's a very small contingent of people with a financial interest in seeing this community hub go ahead, but the overwhelming majority is against the new hub completely. Over the last few years, there has been vocal opposition to the hub, but the Tapawera District Community Council has simply ignored these concerns and has consistently misled the council as to the level of support there is in the community. The area has over 2,000 people. That's the Golden Downs area. But until last week, TDCC had 31 members. That included the committee members and their spouses. A week ago, we discovered that TDCC had secretly planned to sell the community centre at an AGM this week. In response, we pushed a membership drive to vote at the AGM to prevent the sale of the community centre. 31 members do not represent the entire community. Phoebe Quinlivan from Tapawera Connect has been driving this project, and she laments that the community doesn't engage with her at all. However, that same community has engaged with us. We have names and addresses of hundreds of people that are against this. We've asked a simple question, yes or no, do you support the hub? And we have 2 people so far that have voted for the hub, put their name and address down, and over 200 voting just from the Foursquare alone. We note that we also have votes from people that are involved with Tapawera Connect, that are driving the project.
Only asked you to get a coffee.
Pardon me?
Nothing.
We note that we have votes from people that are involved with the hub, but with Tapawera Connect, but are still against the hub. TDCC's chairman, Steve Udy, has addressed this council and says that there's overwhelming support for the hub. That's simply not true. With there's 31 members, you wouldn't know. Phoebe Quinlivan has also addressed this council and declared that there's 82% support for this hub. The survey that Phoebe relies on for this information is based on anonymous surveys, anonymous responses, I should say, and we believe the questionnaire was filled in by seasonal workers and children outside the Foursquare. This anonymous survey was completed outside Foursquare, and there is no way of knowing how accurate the information is given the coverage and instrument errors it contains. There have been numerous other submitters to council in favour of this hub, including Phoebe's daughter, Janine Leedon, Wayne Leedon and Della Welby, all of who are being paid or have other ties to Tapawera Connect. Tapura Connect is a trust that was formed in 2020 by Phoebe and 2 other women with the stated objectives to receive property for a community centre before even talking to the community. Tapura Connect has manufactured the need and convinced the struggling TDCCs to take on their project. On the 11th of November, 2 days ago, TDCC held an AGM meeting which consisted of one agenda item to sell the existing community building to fund the hub. The TDCC committee, knowing that myself and others were against the sale of this asset, excluded us, even though we'd applied for membership the week prior. I'm sure it's common knowledge here that the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Greening and Councillor McNamara were also excluded from this meeting. Councillor Gully was by the chair of Steve Udy, not the committee, just the chair. Councillor Gully was permitted to attend. As I mentioned, I was not permitted to attend. However, I've listened to a recording of the entire meeting, and Councillor Gully will be able to confirm that this is a fractured community with the proposed hub and the dirty tactics of TDCC at the centre of the problem. The attendees, our side, forced the motion to sell the building to be withdrawn, and the only other business that day was to accept the financial statements, which was also rejected due to inaccuracies. The majority of committee are resigning this year and attempted to sell the community building out from under the community, effectively stripping the assets, and we believe to force the acceptance of this new hub. Unfortunately for TDCC and Tapura Connect, since the meeting, the momentum against the hub has intensified. I ask the council to reconsider the funding of this hub as the overwhelming majority of the community do not want it. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Gary. Thanks for taking the time and travelling as far and to speak to us and outline your group's concerns. So appreciate it. Thank you. Right. Next up, are there any declarations of interest for today's meeting? Yeah, so again, Councillor Morgan is declaring an interest in relation to item 7.6, non-vesting options for developments. And so thank you for that. It'll be noted. No other declarations of interest in relation to any items on today's agenda. Thank you. There are no late items. So confirmation of the minutes from the Tasman District Council meeting on the 29th of October. Someone willing to move? Move Councillor Mailing, seconded Councillor Butler. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, so we'll move on to the first item on today's agenda, which is establishing a committee structure for the 25-28 term. And I will hand over to Robin and Steve.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors. Welcome to your inaugural meeting. And through the chair, I'd like to announce the next 4 papers as one, but Robin will introduce each one in those papers in turn as per the agenda. And so before we do that, a couple of comments from me. I'd point out that it's usual for us to review committee structures at the start of each triennium. Governance, group staff and the CEO provide input to those papers, but ultimately it's a decision for mayors and EMs as to the structure and the way that you wish to operate as you move through the triennium. There have been more changes this triennium than the last couple. I've heard that it might even go further back than that, but my memory only goes back for the last couple of triennia. And so that's meant that the proposals have been subject to significant alteration through the last week or two, and certainly nights, evenings, weekends, those sorts of things have seen us making alterations as we've gone through. And that might have resulted in some inaccuracies that have come through in some of the papers. They've been updated as well, as we are aware. So my apologies in advance if there are some errors or omissions that we can discuss around the table. Certainly Robin will introduce any clarification that we need to as each paper comes up. Robin and the governance team don't make these decisions. So please feel free to ask questions, but the merits of a committee structure or the attendees is something that is a debate for the mayor and elected members to have. So with that debate being held, we will faithfully capture the information that we get, and then there'll be a consequent confirmation of those structures, and the attendees for the different committees and the things that we've got will come out following this meeting. But with that said, I'll hand over to Robin. She's going to speak to each of the papers that's scheduled. We're happy to take your questions and look forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Steve. Robin.
Kia koutou. The establishment of committee structure for the 2025 to 28 term, I will take as read. There are a couple of minor changes with regards to adopting the thanks, Ray. Clause 4, where we refer to exploring options for a couple of additional joint working groups with Nelson City Council. Just amended that clause to refer to Nelson City Council because unfortunately I had Tasman District Council in there. And the two terms of reference that we are required to adopt today, because we have meetings being held before the delegations register will come to Council on the 11th, the Joint Committee and the Audit and Risk Committee. There's a couple of minor amendments to reflect changes to number of participants, mainly because we have an extra person on our council, and Audit and Risk, there's been an extra councillor added to the Audit and Risk Committee. Apart from that, happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Robin. It is now open for questions in the first instance. Councillor Butler. So just raise the proverbial paw if you wish to speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, I appreciate that, you know, at the beginning of every term we need to review the committees. And I think because we are looking at a different structure this time, you know, what comes to my mind is if I'd just like to have it explained, the reason for going to the forum, the reason for changing from having basically all business come to either the council or one of the committees as we had last time, but this changed to the idea of a forum. What is the basis for that, and what are the risks of that? Because I'm just concerned that some things may be missed out and not actually get to council because they are not they don't fit in a category to come to one of the committees or to the council. I'm just wondering if you're getting my drift. That, you know, I just don't want to see things, important information that council needs to know that maybe does not actually have a decision required for it, but we need to know it. It may be something that is required as part of our regulatory statutory requirements for you know, for the government, something regulatory, and we need to know that it's actually been done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, thank you.
I understand, Celia. Through the chair, yeah, anything that is council is statutorily required to receive will definitely be going to council or the committee that has the delegated authority to receive it. And when you think about audit and risk, most of their reports are received. Because that is the purpose of audit and risk, to not so much make decisions, but to receive the information to ensure that you know, everything is tracking along as it should. So, and that will be included in the delegations to the not to the information forum, but to the actual delegations or the terms of reference for the various committees or council. Yeah, and the information forum, it won't solely be receiving just the reports that used to be received. It gives more flexibility, and it will mean that you can receive some of those reports in a different way, but also anything that is, you know, looking forward to the future. If there might be something that will be coming up a year down the track, but it's not a decision required or anything like that. You know, this is a forum for staff to be able to bring something to basically give you a heads up so that you can be aware of this happening in your future decision making. Yeah, things like that. So the forum does provide for more flexibility.
You noting down, people? Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you. First of all, I've got a procedural question. I've got a number of questions. So would you like me to ask them each individually, or do you want me to go in?
Let's do individually.
Individually.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
And the other question is, after questioning, there will be room for debate?
There will be room for debate.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with a question about efficiency. I understand that in the previous triennium, there were 3 standing committees involving all councillors, and that was deemed onerous and quite demanding on elected members' time. Now, how does combining all of that, all of those 3 committees into 2, and including the enterprise committee into those 2 committees, plus an information forum, which would all still involve all councillors and process the same volume of decisions based on the same amount of information, achieve the goal of being less onerous and less demanding on elected members' time. Mathematically, that seems impossible to me. So my question is, are we going to reduce information available to councillors to make the decision to reduce the time involvement, or do we simply expect that elected councillors will send their apologies for certain meetings?
So when it's asking questions, so debate and questions, you're kind of combining the 2 things into one. But if there's a specific question, if you ask
the question is, how are we reducing the amount of time required from councillors in these committees?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll take the first stab at this. I just saw Leonie reach for coffee. I thought maybe she wanted to speak as well. So there's a couple of responses that I'd make, Councillor. First and foremost, yes, it was onerous for elected members. It was also somewhat onerous for staff. And that was more around the requirements to produce the material in the format that is required for a formal committee. So when we're talking about the information forum, that allows us to present information in a different way that may be quicker, less onerous to produce, may result in less reading for councillors in terms of how it's laid out with the various structures that are in our formal papers, and allows for a broader conversation of the topic rather than something which is somewhat more rigidly structured in a document. So the approach to that forum particularly was about how can we provide information in a multiplicity of ways that better suited the topic, rather than a structured paper that required us to do certain things, go through a whole bunch of checks and balances, and have material associated with that paper that wasn't actually germane to the subject. So that's why we came up with a less formal information sharing group. We also looked at the number of times in which in other words, information reports rather than decision reports went to various councils, and it was something like 25%.
We're decision making.
75% were information reports. And so when we looked at it, we thought there must be a more efficient way to communicate this information to councillors. So that was principally around that part of it. Similarly, when you look at the inclusion of the Enterprise Committee with the, I'm going to forget the name, Strategy, Finance and Performance Committee, the material that was coming through the Enterprise Committee was largely being received, and then subsequently decisions would be handed on through council as they were required. The nature of the reports and the number of reports that went to that committee we felt could easily be accommodated within a quarterly schedule that is part of an existing meeting, and the impost on councillors would be no different than it is already. Does that help?
So the only thing that's really changing is the format in which the information is provided? Is that the saving that we're looking for?
Largely, yes, but that in itself is quite considerable. If you look at the number of pages, for want of another word, that councillors are required to review through that formal set of documentation, if that was able to be presented in a different way that was differently consumable, it could actually convey the information much more effectively, much more quickly than having a somewhat turgid report.
But you think it's absolutely required that every councillor is privy to every bit of information that's being shared through those committees?
That's an opinion that I would hold. It's up to individual councillors to determine whether or not they feel that the matter needs their attention and their attendance. But we wouldn't put the information out there if we didn't think that it was important.
Can I ask my second question? I sense a bit of duplication. The standing committees have the same membership as full council, all of us. If I understand the draft terms of reference correctly, then they are tasked at times to make recommendations to full council. So that basically means the same people are recommending to themselves. What is the governance benefit of that?
So the times when members would, when the committees will need to recommend to council would be only with regards to statutory requirements. For example, if we were to amend a bylaw and the ERO committee would have the delegation to do the consultation on that, they would do the deliberation on that, but they cannot amend the bylaw. So they go through all of that and then they recommend the decision to council, and that's it's not pro forma, but it is just a recommendation rather than the council having to show that it has gone through to consider all of those. Yes, it's the same people, but it's different bodies as such.
Can I just ask my last and third question?
Sure.
The information forum in the structure diagram seems to sit under standing committees, yet the terms of references make clear that it's completely outside of Lagoima requirements. How to make sure that all the information from the information forum is fully accessible to the public if it's not within Lagoima?
Those meetings will be open to the public. They will be live streamed as well, and we would need to look at a process, but possibly the agendas for those meetings could be made available online as well.
And I'd add to that, outside Lagoima, for the purposes of the execution of the meeting and the structures that are involved in the preparation of the papers and those things that I alluded to before, all of the information that council holds and all of the information that we don't routinely make available to the public is subject to Lagoima, and people can request that information. Yes, we've got opportunities for redaction in certain circumstances, and there are reasons where you withhold, but the fact that it sits outside Lagoima is about how the meeting is structured and operated, not what happens to the content that is discussed.
Thank you. And I just remembered one little question I still have on duplication between the two standing committees. Reading through the draft terms of reference, it seems to me like there's a slight overlap of those when it comes to land use, planning and RMA policy. Is that correct?
They were draft, so please note that they are very draft. We need to, so we've compiled those based on the delegations that were given to the previous committees, and once a decision is made by council, that's when we kick into gear to refine any terms of reference, and once they are refined, they go through a legal review, and that's when they're brought back through the delegations register. So anything like that will be picked up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Tom. Just going back to the information forum. So my interpretation that what differentiates this from a workshop setting is that it's a one-way flow of information. So a report would be tabled, and that's important that it is tabled for reference back to a point in time where we could see what information was being provided. But in terms of the elected members in the panel, that at the time, they will not be offering positions or debate or tasking, will they? It's an informant, and that's what separates it from a workshop situation or where a council position is being developed. Is that correct?
For the information forum, the councillors will definitely be able to ask questions, discuss, and you can also talk about having some actions coming from that. And that is a workshop is a different focus. It's a single purpose. It's perhaps asking for guidance and things like that that need to inform a report further down the track. What the information forum is for is to provide you with the information and absolutely have discussions and ask questions.
I'd just add to that too, that decisions are not made in workshops either.
No.
It's only the formal council and committee meetings where decisions are made. So in a workshop, you have a discussion, you have a somewhat free and frank exchange of views and those sorts of things. The fundamental difference, as Robin has just pointed out, between the workshop and the information forum is that opportunity for actions to be assigned and for further information to come through. But it would be a dialogue in any sense of the word in the same sort of way that it would occur inside a workshop. But as Robin said, workshops tend to be singularly focused, a singular item of interest. The information forum would be more broad.
Thank you. Yeah, I can see that the terms of reference for the information forum will be very good reading, and I pity the chair that's trying to prevent an information forum meeting devolving into a workshop. I think it's going to be a tricky piece of work.
Anything further? Sorry, Councillor McNamara first, and then Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess that has been my main concern all the way through, is the information forum and trying to establish the advantage of information forum over a workshop setting. I'm still a bit dubious about it. So the information that's presented to us, is that somehow available to the public without a Legoima process?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, the information forum will be live streamed.
Yes.
The information will be available in the same way that papers are made available for a council or a committee meeting. And I guess for councillors who are in their second or more term, if you think about all of those information papers, information only papers that have come to committee meetings, that material will be what goes to the information forum.
Yes, I was just establishing that it was easy for the public to access.
Oh, yeah. In fact, we're hoping that it will be easier.
Right.
That's the intention, that it will be easier and it will be easier to consume, because it'll be in different formats that relates better to the subject that might be the thing that we're discussing, rather than a prescribed format that we get information only report for a committee meeting.
Yeah, okay.
There will be the opportunity to go confidential.
Councillor Morgan.
If it's
Thank you very much. In reading through the papers, the focus is on productivity, efficiency, and making decisions at the council committees, appropriate levels, with the appropriate delegations of policy. That's how I'm reading it. It's not clear to me in the transfer from the current structure to the revised one that we've covered all the potential gaps between the myriad of committees and obligations. But I can see where your focus is. I'm not sure, however, that will get the productivity and the efficiency. I think you state that yourselves in the report, that there's no potential gain. On the efficiency side, in the committee, the standing committees, say the strategy finance one, would it be the expectation that the committee deals with the paper, recommend it's up to council, and we deal with it again? Is that what you're seeing?
If you are required to recommend to council, no, you don't. You can debate it again, but you don't go through the paper doesn't go up. It's your decision that goes to council. It's your decision that you recommend. It won't be very often that these standing committees will recommend to council. That will only be for statutory obligations.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Why would we deal with statutory matters at the committee when it has to be dealt with at the council, and therefore use the time better in the proposed process that we're for change? I'm trying to understand where we get time saving, efficiency, and not duplication of documentation.
Sure. So when you delegate, so and the intention is to have full decision making delegated to the standing committees. So those committees are required to do the work under that. I referred to a bylaw earlier. But if it's a statutory obligation that council has to make a decision on something, the decision is made by council, but the work is done by the standing committee. So yes, you're the same people, but it's the requirement of the committee to actually go and make those decisions as far as they can.
So
sound right?
My last question is really around the unknowns, and I'm really talking about the statutory responsibilities we have. I think it would be helpful to have a governance matrix, and certainly at the audit and risk, where there's a clear, simple matrix over the course of a year in meetings that we can see that we've covered the statutory commitments in one piece of paper as against multitude. So there's tools that we could develop. And the other thing is to have clarity in the delegations management decisions of this process, that they are within particularly the long-term plan. What's agreed in the long-term plan, because from my reading of it, it's a bit obscure, for want of a better word, in terms of the financial accountability.
So on that, I'd probably comment that, so number one, you did mention earlier that what if something's missed? You still can't hear? 1 minute, caller. Yeah. You mentioned about what if something's missed. In the restructuring of the committees, anything that potentially might be missed, anything goes to council. If something's ambiguous, that would go to council. So, I think you can be rest assured that if a decision is required on something, there will be a venue for it to go to. With regards to ensuring that the statutory requirements are met, all of council's statutory requirements, that would be something that audit and risk would oversee. And I think there possibly are practices in place to manage that, but I'm sure staff would be really happy to look at, other ways that we can be doing that too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there's, Councillor Woods.
Hi, Rob. So the oversight provided through tenders and procurement panels back to operations, that was referred to quite heavily in audit and risk around the new CEO financial delegation. So in the new structure, we lose the tenders and procurement panel and we lose operations, but it's being replaced with the strategy procurement committee.
Tenders panel was replaced with the road. Can you scroll that down for me? I can't remember the name of it.
Strategic, yes.
Yeah.
But we don't yet have the terms of reference for that committee, which that'll be December 11th.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're taking a small leap of faith, although my understanding is because that terms of reference isn't finalised yet, Council retains that delegation until December 11th. Yes,
it does.
And the next one of oversight was the Water Project Board, the management team that was reporting to operations. That Water Committee, which is proposed, we haven't seen any terms of reference for that either, but that delegation will also fall to Council in the interim, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. If there are no further questions, I'll move the resolution from the... Sorry, Mike.
Question, a short one. The Enterprise Committee, previous trimester was set up looking forward at investment opportunities. Sorry, okay. Brian, what did I say?
Trimester.
Oh,
Slight difference. Yeah. Some similarities.
Yeah.
But major differences as well.
Previous 3 years, we had a committee called the Enterprise Committee that was looking forward, projecting forward for this council, investing in long-term investments, setting investments that weren't actually providing enough support and return for us. And it developed a SIFO. So that was a policy of investments for looking forward, and we've since got a $3 million seed funding that we're now going to put invest in different things. Looking at the roles and responsibilities that have been provided here for the new structure, it doesn't give me confidence that we're actually going to be looking forward, specifically looking forward. It gives me confidence that we're looking back and looking at what we should be reporting on, but it doesn't give me confidence that we're looking forward to say, this is what we should be doing, or this is how we're monitoring it. And these are the assets we've got now that are returning 6% or whatever. So can you give me confidence that in the new setup you've got here, that we are looking forward, we have got a SIFO that is actually operational, not sitting in someone's bottom drawer, and that we're actually trying to increase our funding resilience fund? There's several questions here, but a simple yes would be great, thanks.
Yes. So I guess the first thing that I do is I draw the distinction between the nature of the work and the forum through which that work is discussed. The forum through which the work is discussed is changing because we're going to integrate the activities of the Enterprise Committee with I wish I could continue to remember the name of it, the Strategic Finance and Planning Committee, right? So that work will still continue. There is no intention that it should be more or less forward focused than it has been under the auspices of the previous Enterprise Committee. If you feel that there is insufficient strength in either the terms of reference or the roles and responsibilities, then that's something that we can debate and we can firm up as we establish those terms of reference for those committees. But all we're doing is taking the Enterprise Committee away, essentially, Enterprise Committee away as a standalone committee on a separate day, time and venue, and moving it into another meeting on a quarterly rotation. So the same quarterly attention to those matters will occur. the same, notwithstanding different councillors around the table, the same sort of representation from elected members, and we're proposing that there will be an external member who will be present at that meeting too, in the same way that they have been with the Enterprise Committee. So all things remain the same, except for the vehicle through which we give effect to those conversations. If that doesn't give you confidence, then there's something more that we can tease out through the terms of reference.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I've got, it's not a done deal yet, so I can think about it a bit more and come back to you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McNamara.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Councillor Moss has just raised. I would have liked to have seen a more proactive look at that committee as well, and I'm not sure how that will be achieved in the confines of the time and the larger committee structure that it's going to. Another question that has occurred to me is, so we're dropping down to 2 committees and a council meeting, each on a 6-week rotation.
Rotation of meetings, so standing committees and council meeting, 6 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, obviously they can happen whenever they need to happen, but the predetermined schedule is proposed to be
4 weeks for the strategy, finance and performance, and 6 weeks for the environment, regulatory and operations.
And council?
Council 4 weekly. Yeah.
So
4 weeks. Council will meet 4 weekly.
So just in terms of how the calendar looks and the number of meetings, if something needs to be brought to us, I'm just wondering if there's more gaps now than there was previously.
No.
Right.
No, they used to all be 6 weekly. Yeah.
And that's predominantly driven by looking at the historical workloads and the run rate for papers to various committees and things like that. But as we mentioned before to Councillor Morgan, in the absence of a forum in a timely manner, things come to council.
Yeah. And if anything's urgent, you can call for an extraordinary meeting.
I'm just aware that we have tended to rely more on delegations than call
council meetings.
Ad hoc or whatever the term is.
And some of that was behind, so in your previous triennium, council meetings were every 6 weeks. So we've shortened that period for full council, and it's allowed us to accommodate some of the other things we're trying to do.
And can you also confirm, which is the second part of Councillor McNamara's question, will the enterprise related issues get lost? My understanding is that on a regular basis, one of those finance, performance and thingamy meetings will focus on that. So, and that will be predetermined. So that, for example, every third meeting will have a specific focus on enterprise related matters, so that it absolutely doesn't just get lost in the other issues.
Aware that it's in a larger framework where timeframes may be squeezed, and the freedom to prolong the discussion.
Again, I'm very cognizant. I don't want timeframes squeezed. Hence, taking all the information items out of agendas so that we can absolutely focus on decision making and or direction, so that the time is not consumed with presentations, information items. I'm not a fan of decisions being made at 4:30 in the afternoon at the end of a very long day, after people are starting to get, jaded, scratchy in general. So I'm absolutely cognizant of ensuring we efficiently use our time. And again, to some degree, this will develop as it goes, but that's certainly the intention.
The Mayor makes a really good point that I should have brought up, which is about if our agenda are less occupied with information reports, then we've got more time to debate the things where we need to make decisions. And certainly there's there will be, on a quarterly rotation, time dedicated to enterprise matters. There's no reason why other enterprise matters can't come up at other points if they're required along the cycle of those meetings, and there will be an external member who will attend. There may. Subject to the terms of reference being adopted. Yeah, correct.
Final question, just on that point. Yep. Are we going to workshop the terms of reference?
Yeah, I've indicated to, I think, most people who have raised concerns over the course of the last couple of weeks as we've been working through this, that between now and December, we'll workshop the terms of reference / delegations so that everyone's A, really clear what they are, and B, the issue that was raised by Paul and a number of others, is there any potential either overlaps or gaps? So, yeah, that is absolutely the intention.
I would actually just say, if anyone's got feedback on the terms of reference, feel free to send them to us, to TDC Governance, and we can collate that. Yep.
But in doing so, we won't necessarily respond individually. We'll bring it back to a workshop for a broader discussion.
Yeah, so it will be workshopped.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear. Have you moved and seconded it, or have you just
about to?
Oh, okay.
Once we've exhausted the questions. So with that, I'll move the adoption of the structure and associated things as contained by the resolution and agenda. So I'm looking for a seconder. Seconded Councillor Deputy Mayor Maru. I'll get this right eventually. Deputy Mayor Maru. Just in speaking to the resolution, so firstly, I'd like to thank everybody for their engagement over the last couple of weeks. I know I've spoken to most of you multiple times, multiple phone calls, some of the weekends, in response to either emails or questions that people had. So I really appreciate everyone's willingness to consider a new structure. I know in some ways it seems different. It actually, to my mind, actually is very little difference. The Operations Committee effectively operated largely as an information forum. Out of the couple of hundred items that came in front of it over 3 years, like 20 may have been decisions. The balance were all information to be received. There is a focus on efficiency, and I know sometimes it seems like it's lots of little things, but I can assure you lots of little things add up over time. And in discussion with Leonie, Robin, Steve, my anticipation is effectively we'll save the equivalent of an FTE in streamlining some of this, and that's related to the work that goes behind the scenes to set up formal agendas, the process that goes around that, and also a more efficient use of our time. That doesn't necessarily mean less time. At the end of the day, everyone put their name up for election, and the time that it takes to go through the business of council is the time that it takes. Trying to limit people's time commitment is not necessarily the focus. Getting good value out of the time that we are all here is absolutely the focus. Hence the recommendation to put the information items into a specific forum that will, again, be public. The information will be available. It'll be accessible. It will enable to come in different formats. So it may not be a big 120-page written report. It may be some visual presentation, video. There's a whole lot of technology that can help disseminate information, give people the opportunity to consume it, understand it, and it will give us the ability to try different things as well without the strictures and structures that come with running a formal council committee structure. So again, there is a degree of trial and error. I have absolute confidence in terms of the chair's ability to ensure it doesn't become a de facto workshop / council meeting. And really that is simply by not asking the meeting to come to a conclusion or a decision or provide formal direction. Inevitably, if there's 15 of us around the table asking questions, asking for more information, you will get a flavour. I mean, it's inevitable in any conversation and or discussion, but it is not a formal request for some form of direction collectively. Individually, I'm sure everyone will share very specifically their views on whatever the thing might be, and that's fine and actually to be encouraged. In terms of the enterprise subcommittee, again, small savings, but the cost of having independent membership, is not an insignificant cost over a 3-year period. I'm certainly open to the idea of having a non-voting independent member on finance, but again, we can workshop that through the terms of reference conversation. So yeah, overall, as I'm not putting this through under the section of the Act that gives me as some degree of power, about the only time in the entire triennium I get to do something individually. So I really would appreciate if people support the structure. The one thing I'll also touch on is I make it quite clear. So I've had conversations with you all individually. I don't want to go into names and etc. But I have talked to quite a number of people around, well, in fact, everyone, kind of what their future intentions are. It's not a commitment, obviously, to either 3 years is a long time. But I'm very cognizant at the end of last term, we had quite a significant amount of experience choose not to restand. And I'm happy for this to be minuted and or noted and or however that's recorded, that no later than 1 year to go before the next election, reviewing the structure and membership and chairing of committees is something that I will absolutely undertake to do in order to provide, at that time, people will probably have a much clearer idea of what their final future intentions are for the next triennium, and to ensure that there is a conscious decision around succession and opportunity for people who will, at that point at least, be considering to restanding to step up into some of those key roles and have at least 12 months to work. I'm not a big fan of the constant rotation model. I think it's really important as we get through the LTP that we pair experience with new people, and at the end of the day, people who have made that time commitment and effort over multiple terms to gain the experience. I think we should make the most of that for at least that 2 year period. But I will very consciously review this within 1 year of the next election. So with that, it's open for other comments and debates. Deputy Mayor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the Mayor. Firstly, through part of this, I actually was disappointed Mayor King didn't use his powers and just appoint these structures, because for many, and especially I remember being in the seats of new councils, you want to go on and make decisions and start actually getting into the things that you went through a campaign and said you promised to. So without structure, we don't exist. And so in terms of getting the structure and so the terms of references can get developed, and the processes and the people appointed to the committees to do the work that you want to do has to occur. So I don't know what the percentage is throughout New Zealand in terms of mayors not exercising their powers, but this is the opportunity that you've had more involvement than it's required. And I guess that's a gift from Mayor King to do that. So in terms of some key points for me, the rotations of standing council meetings from 6 to 4 is an indication of bringing decision-making to full council to make decisions. So I remember the standing committees and the council committees where we would have at times 2,000 pages, 800 pages in agendas, and maybe 2 decision reports in there. So it is tiring. The day is sitting around here asking questions, scrutinising things, and that where the split of decision-making and information allows you to focus absolutely on making those decisions. And I guess we've heard from governments, us sitting around this table will always be the king of the table. So the council, full council, will always have the final say in anything that we do. And so as we workshop terms of reference and delegations, 2 important things. But in terms of the members that have interacted with Mayor King and offered or asked to stand on the different committees and things, there's lots of there's a few people with lots of tasks coming up and that have said they've stepped forward to do that. So the time commitment, as Mayor King said, is entirely in the hands of the elected members, and for some that will be their whole life, every day, every hour, every day of the week, and for others it'll be where they think they can make the biggest impact. So I guess I absolutely also encourage you to support the structure. The structure is the first piece of the puzzle of getting to the business of council, to getting to be able to make decisions. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Maru, Councillor Neubauer, and then Councillor Graney.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to applaud you and support your intent to, in reviewing this committee structure, to become more efficient and reduce the load on staff, to make it fit with the organisation, which has restructured a little bit, and to be more respectful of elected members' time. However, I do think that we are being asked to make the second step before the first, because I think in order to make a sound decision, all of us need to have a clear understanding of the outcomes sought, the drivers, the constraints around all of this. And we've teased out a little bit of that through the questions, but I, for one, based on what I've heard, I still remain unconvinced that this is really the most efficient way how we can reduce the demand on elected members' time. I'm convinced that this is the best way to avoid duplication of all of us kind of recommending things to ourselves. I wonder if the goal is truly efficiency and respect for members' times, then wouldn't smaller, more agile committees with a narrower delegations and a targeted membership be a better approach? I mean, not everybody has to be on every committee. Isn't this the whole idea of a committee, that you've got people with particular skills and interests scrutinizing certain issues and then recommending to full council for decision making? That would free up, open up more chair positions, learning opportunities, succession planning. In a risk-based approach, you would delegate low-risk decisions to a smaller committee with a smaller membership. And high-impact decisions obviously need to be made by full council. So these are the sort of things that I've got in my head that I don't see reflected in this structure. But my biggest concern of all is the process that has led to where we are today. A few weeks ago, it's actually not that long ago, and we've all been out campaigning, or at least most of us. And we've heard the message from the community who have a desire for more transparency, honesty, and accountability. Only last week, we sat here in this chamber and we agreed we wanted to have open, frank discussion based on quality information. Instead, we had one-on-one discussions with the mayor behind closed doors. And we are now presented with a near final proposal to vote on. Yes, we can come up with an alternative on the hop, but that is not good governance either. Look, I understand this might be how things have been done in the past, but we're a new council and we can do better. So given my questions, the vagueness of the terms of reference, the lack of transparency, the lack of opportunity to explore options, I will vote against this structure and I invite others to do the same. I understand that many will be very happy with the proposed roles. And I understand the temptation to just get on with it. But this is a foundational decision that will shape how we operate as a council for the next 3 years. And it sets the tone of how we work together. I think that the committee structure needs proper scrutiny collectively by the council. And I foreshadow that should this resolution not pass, then I will move a motion for a workshop on this, reporting back to full council at the next full council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Greening.
Through the chair, we want to break my response up into two parts. The first is I'd like to move an amendment, which I've circulated to Leonie and the TDC governance team. Appreciate the reassuring words, the letters of comfort, but I actually think the question about rotation needs to be put in the motion. There's no mention of rotation in this structure, and I think it needs to be. There's been broad talk of rotation. I'm talking standing committee chairs from 6 months, and we've heard 2 years. I've spoken to some directors and some other councillors around the table, and the suggestion is actually 12 months is more than reasonable. That allows 6 chairs and 6 deputies. It develops councillor skills, which, to be perfectly frank, an alternative structure would have probably better provided, but this is the one that the mayor has put forward. And I think it also mitigates maybe in the subsequent reports some of the remuneration disparity concerns that no doubt we'll come to later as well. So I'm moving a motion, and the motion is notes that the standing committee chairs and deputies are changed every 12 months with a new chair and deputy roles determined by a majority of vote of council with no repeat of the same role by any councillor. Do I have a seconder?
Well, you don't get to ask that. I do.
Oh,
So
okay, sorry.
if you just remember how this works. So there's been an amendment moved. Is there a seconder?
Happy to second it.
So we are now debating the amendment. Is everyone clear what the amendment contains? Is there any debate on the amendment?
Sorry, can you just clarify the time frames? I can't quite hear with the rain.
Circulate the email, so you should have it in front of you. To Leah,
Yeah, so
she can put it up on screen. And I'd like to call a division on the vote as well. Thank you.
I'll send it to you.
Well, it should be up on the board. We should be.
I can't read it.
Yeah. We don't need to be able to see the division thing.
You want to read that?
Everyone clear what the amendment is? Yeah. All right. So we're now discussing the amendment. Councillor Kinnemont.
Thank you. After 12 months, why do we have to change them? Could it be reviewed as opposed to change? If you've got a committee that's working really well.
So Councillor Greening has moved an amendment. So we're debating the amendment. You'll get your right of reply. Councillor Greening is the mover. So that is Councillor Greening's resolution. So the whys and wherefores are what Councillor Greening has already outlined in moving the amendment. Councillor Woods.
I think the role of chair could be quite involved for some of the work coming up RMA and possibly local water's done well. And I'm wondering, to get a feel of the room, how many people would actually want to be a chair or can afford the extra time involved to become a chair. Are we boxing ourselves in a little bit? Maybe our depth of availability for chair people is less than we think.
Good question. So again, just focus on the amendment. So it's not compulsory to ask lots of questions. We can put the amendment. So are there any further councillor mailing?
Yeah, under the RMA, to chair plan changes and hearings, you have to have a chair's endorsement and an RMA qualification. Currently, I'm the only one that actually, other than the mayor, that holds both those qualifications. It's a two-step process. It's a reasonable amount of work. So that's an obligation that we have. Yeah. And I'd be happy for someone else to do it. Previously, we have had extra people qualified, and I helped people with their qualifications last time, but that's the base qualification. There's an endorsement to become a chair as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Morgan and Councillor Butler.
Mr. Chair, in principle, I'm very supportive of succession processes so people can participate. That's the first thing. The second thing, however, it should be based on skills to do the job. And then thirdly, the issue really is we shouldn't have an automatic change. It should be a reviewable process because we are thinking ahead 3 years. I'm not going to be here, but I'm happy to make a contribution into the principles how we could evolve as an operating council. So I don't support the word changed. It should be reviewed. And that gives the opportunity for people to consider it.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Who else we got? Councillor Butler.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but actually I don't think that everybody would necessarily want to be a chair or even be a deputy, because they've got other things they're working on. They've got other priorities. So I'm sorry, but I can't support it. I think that the 2 year review or possible change, which has been suggested by the Mayor, should be okay. I mean, maybe it could go to 18 months, but so as it stands, I'm sorry, I can't support it for those reasons, and I think it would need a lot more discussion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Greening, I'll come back to you and then I'll put your amendment.
Happy to entertain reviewed if people are sensitive to the word changed.
So we're now at your right of reply. So ship sailed.
So no, it hasn't sailed. I can still change my amendment.
So we've had the discussion.
Responding to feedback in the room. Would you like me to put a separate motion again? I can happily put another amendment up, or we can just change it.
But you can't change reviewed with determined by, like, it doesn't make sense then.
Notes the standing chair and deputies are reviewed every 12 months. And then with new chair and deputy determined by majority, should the review determine. So that's
the second bit contradicts the first bit. So I think
it's not.
I'd prefer to just stick with the current resolution.
I would like to change it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your directions. I would like to change it to reviewed, please.
Through the chair, the mover and this the amendment can be changed with the agreement of the members in the room.
Yeah, I'm happy to agree.
We'll change it to reviewed. I'll put the resolution. I'll put the resolution. You don't actually get a right of reply on an amendment. So I was going to give you one, but it's actually not a requirement. So I'll put the amendment. All those in favour, please say aye. Oh, sorry. Call by division.
Councillor Butler.
Against.
Councillor Ellis.
Against.
Councillor Fernyhough.
Against.
Councillor Gully.
Against.
Councillor Hume.
Against.
Mayor King. Councillor Kinnamonth.
For.
Councillor Mayling.
Against.
Councillor Maru.
Against.
Councillor McNarama.
For.
Councillor Morgan. Councillor Nabawa.
For.
Councillor Walker.
Against.
Councillor Greening.
For.
Councillor Woods.
For.
Resolution is lost 9-6. So we're back to the substantive resolution. So I will look to put the substantive resolution. Councillor Greening.
So I moved amendment, but I wanted to talk to the main motion after I put my amendment. Yep, fantastic. First of all, can I just acknowledge and welcome the recognition that many meetings, I think the term was 70+%, had no decisions in them. But I don't agree with the proposal that information reports will be dealt with outside committees. I really don't understand why the forum is not made a standing committee when it's already been acknowledged that it's going to receive reports and receive a matrix of other documents as well. I think the issue is not the reports. From my own experience, you can read every report, and it's probably quite important that you do have a lot of detail around decisions you're making. The issue really is, do you need 13 councillors around every committee to kick the tyres on that, when you can effectively, as the Mayor constantly reminded me last term, email staff directly and have my questions answered? Or raise issues at the meeting should I decide to participate in that decision, that discussion, if I don't think I'm getting the right answers, and other councillors need to hear that. My other concern with this is there's been no comparative analysis done with other options. So again, very difficult to assess. I reflect Councillor Newbauer's concerns and disappointment that the Mayor has refused to agree to hold a workshop over this. We had plenty of time. We already had 2 workshops already. We've got another full council meeting coming up. Instead of individually meeting, it would have been brilliant if we'd actually had the opportunity to kick the tyres on the structure, sound out other ways of doing things, because I don't think what is being proposed here necessarily responds very adequately to what is the problem. And to be really frank, I'm still unclear exactly what problem we're trying to fix here. Is it a staff efficiency, 1 FTE? Is it good governance, in which case I think we've missed the boat? What is it? Is it councillor time, and are we more efficiently using our time? And I think that really hasn't been addressed here. Because as I look at the numbers, and I was adding up the times, and Mayor King was indicating to me these would be probably full day, maybe later, further down the track they might be a little bit more leaner. But we've gone from effectively 3 standing committees that had 3 hours each, sometimes a day, but generally 3 hours, sometimes even 1 hour, to basically full days, and that's 6 hours each. That's 12 hours against 9 hours, and then you've got the information for them to add on to the 12. This doesn't make any sense to me. I think we need to kick the tyres on the structure a little bit more thoroughly, so I will be supporting Mr Naubauer's forewarned motion. I will be voting against this structure. I don't think it adds up at all, and I don't think it achieves what it needs to. So there are no apparent efficiencies. I think it's still requiring all councillors to attend these meetings. You're not getting the efficiencies that I think it's espoused to be. I think it's a little bit rushed, to be perfectly frank. I think it has lost transparency. And the merger of enterprise to me makes limited sense. It's a very focused entity with advisors on it. It predominantly goes into committee. So it's very predominantly, I'm not saying always, but predominantly, into committee on particular financial transactions that it's very focused on. And I think that's a distraction for the broader issue. I can understand that you may want to bring it in and create more efficiency, but you're not creating any more less time. In fact, the Enterprise Committee has 3 councillors on it, and now there will be 13. I don't know how that is any more efficient in terms of councillor time. And the staff efficiencies, I really do wonder, because the staff are still going to be asked, hopefully, questions at all of these forums or standing committees. There'll be still staff are required to support it all. I've heard that there will be reports provided as well, but there may not be reports on some things and reports on other things. I think the inconsistency there is a concern for me as well. This, at the end of the day, should be about good governance. In my opinion, from my observations on council, councillors get overloaded, and I think what should be happening is 2 things: not overloading councillors, and we're still seeing 13 councillors turn up to effectively 3 committees, although 1 officially isn't a committee. I just don't understand why you just wouldn't make a committee anyway. I'm just not convinced that it's good governance. It's just, again, when we haven't teased out the issues, which I think we should do. We should be lining up things as we land the plane. I think it hasn't provided the opportunity for development of councillor skills, and we've got a lot of young councillors, new councillors in this chamber. We've already heard that some are still not confident enough to chair. In a list, and another alternative structure was proposed, but again we couldn't kick the tyres on it. That provided a less demanding, less stressful environment where people could lift their skills in a different alternative process that would be efficient for council decision making. So I think there are some other options here that we should be kicking the tyres on. So I totally agree with where Timo is coming from. And so I will be voting against this motion, and I am calling a division. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graney. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. To the Mayor and Leonie, so even a councillor that has been across the proposed structure and looked at it with a view for transparency and oversight from the elected members, you can still be broadly in support of it, having found no issues with it, and yet still sympathise with the position of councillors that would have liked to have, as Mark said, kicked the tyres a little more. So can I get perspective on any time constraints or fallibilities that we're stepping into around providing that time for a workshop type process?
So just to be clear, so I've consciously chosen not to go through my ability to implement this effectively unilaterally. And my view is that we need to get on to the business of doing the business of councillors that you were elected to do. This was never about saving people time. You stood for this election. I find it deeply ironic that Councillor Greening is talking about attendance at council meetings and the time commitment required to make decisions. Ultimately, people have elected you to contribute to all of the activities of council. Again, and I've made it clear in my conversations with people, I philosophically completely disagree with breaking into small groups and then having those people get all the information, have the opportunity to have discussions, and then effectively have to bring it back to the full council where the other 6 people, 8 people, then have to catch up with all of that information. They're still obliged on behalf of the people who elected them to go through all of the same due diligence, consider all of the issues, and vote. So, I mean, there's a massive philosophical difference between the suggestion that Councillor Greening's making and the suggestion I'm putting up. I think timeframes are important. Ultimately, we've got a couple of meetings before Christmas and then pretty much the businesses of councils for a period of a number of weeks over the Christmas New Year period. And then you're into February and then you're starting to face decisions around annual plans. So absolutely, time is of the essence. Having a structure in place that enables us all to start making the decisions that people have elected us to do. I strongly don't believe that most people who voted in this election wanted us to spend hours and hours going around a structural conversation. I genuinely believe they want us to get on and actually start doing the business around those key issues that everyone raised during that campaign. So, yeah, I think time is absolutely crucial.
So thank you, Mayor Tim. So my understanding is currently, if this motion is adopted here today, those committees will have their terms of reference. The terms of references will be workshop prior to the meeting in December, 11th of December. Those committees would have the terms of references adopted 11th of December, and at that point they would become effective.
Correct.
If we decided to workshop the structure, what does that then do to the point at which those committees become effective?
That'll be in the new year, in effect. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Woods. Councillor McNamara.
Yeah, I appreciate the Mayor's opportunity, giving us the opportunity to have input. I also would have appreciated the workshop prior so that we could have heard the round the table discussion as opposed to just bringing our own case individually and concerns and not hearing other people's, because they do raise valid points that I would have liked to have heard the answers fleshed out to. Got something else, forgotten what I was going to say. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Greening, I think you have already spoken.
Just wanted to respond that it's
so it's not a responding situation. So you've spoken to you, Councillor Greening. You've spoken to the resolution. So is there any other speakers? Councillor Mayling.
Just briefly, look, I'll support this motion. I want to emphasise that you're elected to represent the whole district, not just your ward, and also you need to be across everything that's happening. It's time consuming, but it's why you stood. You need to be across everything. Otherwise, you would just not able to represent your district properly. So,
Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. I'll be supporting this resolution. I think it is important that the whole council structure has full oversight over the committees. The committees have been, in my view, formed to align with the new council structure, which is logical and simple. It gives staff a clear line of channels. If we add more committees and we have groups within council, it just adds to inefficiency. I'm still wondering how the information forum will work, but to me that is generally just about, it's been raised numerous times during the last triennium about the large amount of information only. So I'm actually willing to give it a good go and see how it works. So I'll be supporting this motion. Any issues and concerns can be clarified during the terms of reference.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we all put our names forward. Our community voted us to be here, but they've voted us to be here to be the best that we can be. And some of us will give our all, and some of us have. And then others do not have that same capacity. And I'm pretty sure your communities know what you could and couldn't do when they put your name up. One question I do want to know, though, and this is a question as opposed to my little statement then, is, Tim, you've said verbally, and you said you'd have it on the record, that after 2 years, you would be reviewing the structure and who sits in what chair and what deputy chair role. Are we able to add that whereby it's in a resolution, whether it's in the terms of reference or in today what we've got at this moment, so that I have assurance? Because in all honesty, I was told a similar thing last term. I didn't see or hear anything about any review, and there was no opportunity for anybody to have any shuffles or changes because it just didn't seem to fit. So for my assurance, would it be noted somewhere that we could be voting on the fact that in 2 years' time, all those seats get looked at and reviewed and others get opportunities?
I'm happy to have it included in a resolution or noted in the minutes, or whichever way makes people feel happier, that no later than 12 months it'll be reviewed. So that is
end of training.
So yeah, 12 months prior to the election. 12 months prior, sorry, reverse version of the same point. Right. Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Morgan.
Mr. Chair, I've already had a discussion about the orientation and induction process and how it's been structured. And we've had meetings already, and personally I've learned a lot about the organisation and accessing decisions that have been made. And I feel I'm a little bit clear at this point in time on where the Tasman District Council overall strategy and plan and processes. Having said that, there's a number of new councillors. We have a variety of skills. From a cultural perspective, I'm personally supportive of having a forum where we discuss matters like structure and have an overall feeling together. It's good practice in terms of developing culture and teamwork. So I'll make that as a first note. I'm not in favour of multiplying committees and small committees. I feel that in terms of the structure, it'll only be successful if the chairs, the mayors of the structures have a very focused attention to the agenda and what management put up and what they're not allowed to put up, because it doesn't focus on the efficiency and productivity and decision making. The councillors, I don't feel in reading the documentation and the process that we really are focusing our time on the material decisions, you know, the way it's sort of balanced. And from my point of view, whilst I can't go to all the river committee meetings and the likes, I do want to be able to focus on critical material decisions of this council, and particularly those that have significant risk. It could be financial, it could be people associated with health and safety, whatever it is. And I want to feel that coming through in the way we are structured. And I don't have that confidence as of yet, because we're going to trial a truncated, smaller structure as is proposed. So I would have liked to have had another discussion. I'm happy to support this going through to the policy position, but I would like to think that if it's not working in a year, we've got to review it. I mean, we just can't keep on carrying on in a system that's not delivering what we need for management. We don't want to be wasting their time on matters that it should be spent on addressing the material matters for the community and managing the risks, and there are many from what I'm reading. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Is there anything further before I look to put the resolution? If not, just in reply, like absolutely, like if it's not working, if it's fundamentally broken at some point, then clearly we'll have to have a conversation. I've been doing this for a while, and all sorts of different structures. Ultimately, it's not the structure that determines whether or not we make good decisions, whether we get information, whether staff are bringing reports to us that, you know, are focusing on the right things. That largely comes down to the people around the table, the personalities and the culture that we create. So you can't structure your way out of that. One of the reasons that I chose to put this to you was to try and understand how this is going to work. And I think I've got a fairly good understanding out of the debate today as to where things are. That's one of the reasons to put it to you. So I could see kind of, whereas if I just plonked it out there and exercised my powers, we wouldn't have had this conversation, and I wouldn't have picked up what I've picked up, which is, you know, this is why we have this. This is, at the end of the day, politics, and it's nice to think that you can break all things into little committees and everyone goes off and does their little thing, but this is politics. Everyone inherently wants to have a say, and their constituents expect them to be at meetings, taking the time, putting in the effort, and contributing to the decisions that they're here to do. So, like I say, I started my time in a structure that was smaller subcommittees. I can't remember how long that lasted, but I think it may have been 1, maybe 2 terms before collectively the council back then came to the conclusion that bringing everyone in to the committee structure, providing everyone with the same information, the same access to staff, the same opportunity to ask questions, debate and discuss was a much more efficient way of arriving at decision making and better reflected the number of people around the table and the people who had put them there. So yeah, this is largely based on that philosophy of ensuring that everybody's involved in those most crucial of decisions that come through the standing committees. Inevitably, again, probably, possibly, sadly, you will get lots of agendas where there are relatively minor decisions to be made. But that, again, is our job. We make big, major strategic decisions, and then quite a lot of what we have to do, because we are the decision makers, you know, will be relatively small, relatively simple, not as important. But again, that's part of the commitment that people may put in themselves forward. So I really appreciate the fact that everyone's laid out their views and perspectives. I really hope that you do support the structure going forward in terms of this first step. And then as we get to the December meeting and we finalise the delegations and the terms of reference, then hopefully everyone will be comfortable with the fact that we can get on, make decisions on behalf of our community and really deliver the job that we've been elected to do. So with that, I'll put the resolution as called by division. I think you might as well get used to this because I suspect there might be quite a bit of it. Division. What junior might change.
Councillor Butler. For Councillor Ellis.
For
Councillor Fernyhough.
For
Councillor Gully.
For
Councillor Hume.
For
Mayor King.
For
Councillor Kinnamonth.
For
Councillor Mayling.
For
Councillor Maru.
For
Councillor McNarama.
For
Councillor Morgan. Councillor Nabawa.
Against.
Councillor Walker.
For
Councillor Greening.
Against, is this alphabetical or was I?
Councillor Woods.
I'm always put it at the end. They don't want me to see where it's going.
Councillor Woods.
For.
So the resolution is carried. Thank you. So we'll now break for a quick 10 minutes. So if we come back at 11:10. back over to
Just before you do, we've just had a message.
yourself and Robin who are facing this direction. So it would make it harder for the people behind you, whereas hopefully for us speaking that way, it will be slightly easier. Okay, thank you. So next up is the appointment of chairs, etc., and membership. Again, Robin and Steve.
Through the chair, I will take the report as read, but I just would also like to note that I think in writing the report, we did fail to omit the changes that have been made to some operational management committees, and I didn't actually note that in the report. Those are the Motueka Aerodrome, Takaka Aerodrome, and Port Tarakoe. The staff did looked at the performance and the operations of those committees and the management committees, and they have essentially merged the advisory and the health and safety into one, and we should have included reference to that in the report, so apologies for that. There are changes made into the recommendation. We've included the Golden Bay and Motueka ward members in the appointment to the community boards. That's up. We've just included that in the recommendation, but that's up for council's debate. We've also included the membership that the mayor has put forward. That's been tabled. You have received that. Members received that on LG Hub for your reference, and just having a couple of little issues there. They will be up very shortly. Are there any questions?
Deputy Mayor Maru.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through the mayor, Robin, I think there's been an update on items 4.5, 4.6 in terms of Councillor Morgan indicating that he doesn't wish to be appointed.
That's right. We did get that.
I'm happy to be reappointed.
You're happy to be, yes.
Yep, so that will be reflected, and so in its relation to appointments to community boards. So, so that will change to Councillor Maru, and then Councillor Morgan's name will just.
Ro, would you mind scrolling back to the top, please? The appointment of community boards.
Community boards, yeah.
So that was blank, and we have just included in that proposed the. Keep going. That one. The ward members.
So that is now Councillors Butler and Hume, Golden Bay Community Board, and Deputy Mayor Maru, Councillor Ferniher, and Councillor Walker to the Motueka Community Board. Okay, there are no questions for Robin. If Councillor Butler.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just a sort of timing situation, because the Golden Bay Community Board has not had its inaugural meeting as yet, and the community board could actually decide whether or not they want to have the councillors as part of their community board or not. So what is the guidance?
No, council may appoint members onto the community boards, full stop. And the members are full voting members.
Right, so the community board itself, the 4 members of the community board, do they can be overridden by council decision? Is that what you're saying?
They don't.
The decision is the council just to appoint councillors to committee boards, not the committee boards. Yeah. But it specifically says you can't have more councillors than community board members to ensure that the community board can't be overridden by councillors.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. And yeah, I support that part of the amendment.
Cool, thank you. Councillor Kinnemont.
Thank you, through the Mayor. The committees that you've got listed here, have you reassured yourself that these committees are still active and we do actually need a representation on them? I'm thinking and looking here at Mapua Health Centre Board. Living in Mapua, I didn't even know we had a health centre board and we're still active. So I'm just confirming that it is up to date.
I can't answer that question. I didn't compile the membership of the boards. I do know that they have been reviewed, but I'm not 100% certain of exactly which ones have been looked into further.
In the absence of the board existing, your tenure will be remarkably short. Yeah, well, or either that, or it'll be one of the easier jobs you have during the term of the next 3 years. But we'll need to clarify that. I certainly know the Wakefield Community Health Centre Board continues to exist. And Councillor McNamara.
So this new structure for the port and airports, the terms of reference for that not yet set. So
that will be part of the workshopping of the terms of reference in relation to those items between now and December. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And we can't obviously set the membership for community councils.
No, we can't. Probably, thankfully, I suspect. Okay, then Councillor Walker.
So if by chance there's a group that you may have had a Tasman District Councillor representative on and that doesn't feature in here, and it may be an oversight or it may be an intentional move, of which I'm not prepared to state the group just at this minute. However, is there scope to then acknowledge, oops, we need to rethink this, and at what point do we do that?
Sure. I think I'd also add that the community boards have, they appoint liaison members as well. So there might be two council, but two other, like there's not the Bridge Club, but the Motueka, I think museum, the community board appoint a member to. There's ones like that won't be in this list because they belong to the community board's lists. If there is an omission, or if there's a new group that wants to write to council to ask for a liaison person, council can appoint at any time.
Thanks for that.
All right, thank you. Councillor Butler.
Yeah, just in relation to working groups that might be temporarily set up for something. I know that they don't come into this resolution, but I think it just is a good time to just raise it. And the situation that I'm particularly thinking about is our climate change strategy and plan, which will need to be reviewed. And I appreciate that we're looking at having a joint Nelson Tasman maybe climate forum or committee, whatever. But until that gets going, I'm thinking, would it be possible to have, just a small, say, one or two councillors,
so generally
staff,
yeah,
but temporary.
So generally speaking, the way that eventuates is we'll get a report to, and in that case, it might be the Environment and Reg Committee if they're reviewing it. Well, it might be the Strategy Committee if they're reviewing a strategy. As part of that report, they would suggest creating a working group or working party. And at that point, we would say it's going to involve 3 councillors. Normally, the process is people kind of put their hands up for volunteering. Otherwise, you become voluntold. But generally, we have people who wish to be involved in those things. So that will eventuate case by case via council report on the topic. And the Climate Action Plan review may well be one of those.
So, and I'm just thinking of the timing because, that revision needs to be done in time to go out for consultation with the annual plan. And you know, it might be a bit of a delay, but we're all the committees going to have a meeting before the end of the year, or
they won't all meet before
They
the end of the
won't.
year. But again, the catch-all is if staff believe in terms of the timing of that review that they would like to set up a working party, they could bring the report back to the council meeting. One of the 2 council meetings that will one before the end of the year. Yeah. So if there is a pressing time, that's the method.
It's obvious that councillors can get involved in whatever matters they like within their communities or within their wards, and that might involve you attending meetings which get sprung up from time to time over the course of the triennium. If there is a desire for those groups to have a formalised representation, then that just comes back through governance and we do this process. So this may not be exhaustive in terms of what's out there now, and it certainly won't be a final determination of all of those groups that you might engage in.
Cool. Righto, thank you. I will look for a mover.
I'm happy to move. I just wanted to speak to the list, and I had one issue about appointed members that are going to be on the committees.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Oh, sorry, external people that may be appointed.
That
yes,
may be appointed, and there's people on the list. I suppose the issue for me is that's a managed and recommended, is it, process?
Ultimately, it would be recommended. It would be a council decision as to whom, A, if any, and B,
so
if somebody who
ends up as a decision here, but I suppose my main issue is around that we have a complete process and names are recommended that there's no issues with.
Yes.
Especially, look, for instance, licensing, alcohol, those sorts of things. Yeah. Is that the case?
Liquor licensing, so the setting of the panel, so the non-councillor people on there. Councillor Maru, Deputy Maru, is probably better to explain how that works.
That'd be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and happy to second motion. So yes, so in terms of advert goes out for the role, applications come in, CVs are checked by staff, recommendation comes back to the full council in terms of in a confidential matter, in terms of you get to see their CV, you get to appoint, and I could absolutely tell you that the 3 we currently have in district licensing, Graham's ex-regulatory manager at Tasman District Council. Jean has also been in regulatory both Nelson City and Nelson, and Laurie Gabetes is an ex-policeman, but also was responsible for the review of the Sale of Alcohol Act. Very experienced commissioners and very lucky to have those in terms of those ones.
Thank you. My last question, Mr. Chair, was in lieu of our discussion on succession and skills in the committees, and there being a requirement, in my view, that the chairs are going to operate efficiently the new cascading system. Are we assured the members that the parties can meet the commitment and have got the skills to do the job as discussed?
So I'm absolutely confident that the people I've recommended do have those skills, and the decision around what happens 12 months out from the next election, I think we'll know a lot more about everybody's time commitment, skills, willingness or otherwise to step into different roles by the time they've had the joy of spending potentially 2 years working out just how this all works and the level of detail and commitment that it takes to work through. So in the meantime, the key thing for most people is that there is no extra vote or thing that comes as part of being a chair. Everyone's votes are equal around the table. So, but yeah, I'm more than confident with the people that I've proposed for those positions. Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you. Possibly it's slightly out of sequence, but if I can still squeeze one question in, does the council have the scope to recommend or question members of the, about the appointments rather than chair and deputy chair?
I'm not quite sure what the question is. So.
Does the council get the chance to consider the appointments to committees, or only the chairs and deputy chairs?
As far as it's the whole,
So we're basically having one decision on the entire.
Yeah. So it's one decision on the on the structure.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. It's been moved, Councillor Morgan, and seconded Deputy Mayor Maru. I will look to put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The resolution is carried. Thank you very much. The next report is remuneration. Robin and Steve again.
Through the chair, I will just take this report as read and open to questions.
Thank you, Robin. It's open for questions. Councillor McNamara.
Yep, I have a question around of the two standing committees. One meets 6 weekly and one meets 4 weekly.
Correct. But that's what is proposed.
Yep. I'm just wondering why there needs to be such a discrepancy between the one that meets 6 weekly and the information chair's role also meeting 6 weekly.
So really the conversation that I had with in coming to this was that people who are chairing the standing committees have the responsibility of ensuring that we go through the process of decision making, which is likely, as I guess was demonstrated this morning, to potentially be slightly more challenging / contentious / probably requires a greater degree of focus and effort than the information forum. One of a number of reasons around the information forum was to provide people an opportunity to chair without quite the same degree of focus and or pressure that comes with the decision-making component. I think, as you can see this morning, and you've been here long enough in the past to know that quite often those meetings where they're making quite significant decisions can be challenging to chair. I'm certainly hoping that the opportunity will exist for people to take on the chairing role, still work with the dynamic around the table and the people and the personalities, but without that extra kind of pressure of the decision making.
I appreciate there's potentially more challenge in chairing one of those committees, but from my perspective, you're appointing somebody with the ability to do that. The actual involvement is the same. You know, that's just a level of expertise, not necessarily a greater time commitment or whatever. So I don't support that bigger discrepancy myself.
Okay. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. Just regards the incoming water committee that has been proposed, as appropriate, and I know we've wholly allocated the governance pool here today. Can someone describe to me the process by which the chair for that committee will be remunerated?
Sure. So the report for establishing the water committee will come to council next year. And part of that report will include proposal for membership in terms of reference. Should it, I can't say who that would be or couldn't anticipate that, but should it be somebody who is currently not a chair or remunerated at a higher level with the level of responsibility that the chairs have, council can at any time review their allocation. The only thing you must make sure you do is actually spend the full 803k. And then that can go to the Remuneration Authority to be gazetted if it's required.
The other alternative is that it's actually funded from the local water done well activity, given that has to be 100% ring fenced from other council. So there are a range of options depending on who might be the chair, what the membership is. But one way or another, it can be accommodated.
Just through the Mayor, by way of example, the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee is an external appointment and they are funded separately from the determination.
Councillor Neubauer.
Neubauer, very good. We're getting there. on the remuneration, I understand at the moment that is strictly limited to chair the top up. We're talking about the same top up. The chairs of the standing committees and the information forum. I understand that from conversations that deputy chairs don't actually have that much more time commitment, and I understand that top up is for the additional time commitment that chairs provide as compensation. In a way, there is a conceivable situation where a chair might be out of action for a while and the deputy actually takes over and has exactly the same responsibility, yet under what's proposed, there's no compensation for that. So I wonder whether there should be some thing about that, and also about
a question I have anticipated,
also about the chair of smaller committees.
So the first part, which is what happens if someone is away for an extended period and effectively the deputy chair has to step in. Robin?
Yeah, so there's options that you can do for that. So once you've done this decision has been gazetted by the Remuneration Authority, you can't change that. If somebody was to take a leave of absence for quite a period of time, you can do another resolution to change that to appoint that the acting chair or the deputy chair to have a higher duties allowance, or rather a higher level of remuneration. I think you need to take it case by case. There have been cases in the past where a chair who knows they're going to be away for 6 weeks, and knows there's something quite big happening in the realm of their committee, they may have a discussion with their deputy and go, I would like to actually support you with the additional responsibility. That's another way of doing it. Yeah, so there are different ways to cut it, depending on the situation, I think is probably what
Would it cover the situation to have this basically prorated in the resolution and say, well, it's dependent on how many meetings you're actually chairing?
That's a decision for council.
I'm always a strong believer of trying to keep it simple. So this is a relatively simple. I'm reasonably agnostic if people want to change the relative balance. I've just put that out there. That is, so 1.3 was the chair allowance under the previous one. We've had the conversation about my view of the difference between a standing committee and the forum. But ultimately, it's a decision of the council. One of the main objectives is to try and ensure that the majority of elected members continue to be reasonably well compensated. Because when it actually comes down to a time thing, by and large, the time commitment in the building and in committees is very similar. For chairs, there's work outside that, but the expectation that all councillors contribute does have a time component to it. So trying to ensure that you maintain that minimum councillor at I guess as high as a possible level, while recognising the extra work of chairs. But there's a million ways of splitting this up. It's a question of how complex you want to make it versus a relatively simple model.
And I just add through the mayor, the key things are the pool has to be allocated and it has to be spent. Those are really the only two driving considerations that we've got. You can't refuse to take it and you can't underspend. So creating a pool, for example, is not, for acting up allowances is not something that you can maintain. It has to be allocated, has to be spent.
Okay, I get that. On my second point, what's the rationale for subcommittee chairs and other chairs within the structure not being compensated for the effort and time that they have to put in?
Again, it's a proposal. It's very simple. It pretty much mirrors what's been done historically. There's no 100% right or wrong conversation about, again, it's complexity versus simplicity. it's relatively easy to determine that there is a significant extra effort required by chairs of standing committees. It is slightly more challenging as you come down through different things to try and make comparisons between them in terms of roles. All it really means is any extra allowance you provide for anybody in the system, be it deputy chairs or smaller committees, ultimately comes off the allowance for the rest of councillors. So.
Through the chair, I'd add to that in that so the Remuneration Authority has determined that a councillor with no additional duties should be paid 50,000. So that's what they're saying, that all councillors who have no additional duties should be paid 50,000. It's up to council to decide how they split the pool. And so in this proposal, it's recognising that you all do take on other things. You've got the list that you've just approved, a liaison to other groups, being appointed to other committees. So that's why there's that additional allowance of 3,500, 3,169 added for all councillors as such, because you are all taking on additional work.
I think the key thing is there's a vast range of time commitments around the table by choice in many ways, in many cases. And if you go back in the day, it was all done on meeting allowances. And so you literally got paid per meeting. That also was far from perfect. So the idea of a set arrangement, I think it works much better. But therein lies the challenge. The further down you come, for example, Mutu Waimea councillors will pick up an enormous amount extra just in managing community groups and meetings, because they have a lot more community groups and meetings in their particular part of the ward. Councillor Gully will have a workload that reflects the gigantic geographical scale of the ward that he represents. And then in Richmond, is the responsibilities are split between 4 councillors versus 2 in Golden Bay. So yeah, there are so many moving parts. The more complex you try and make it, the more potentially that's just my perspective. So
look, I mean, my question was specifically about chairs. It's nothing to do with my remuneration or that of any other councillor. It was just something that came to my mind that we might want to consider, but also I don't want to unnecessarily drag this out.
On that point, we've got Councillor McNamara, Councillor Mailing, and if someone is prepared to move something, that would be handy to move us on.
Yeah, the pressure. But you just raised an interesting point that the chairs are Richmond ward councillors who don't have a lot of extracurricular or anything to do. So the disparity between chairs and councillors in general is, in that light, even more glaringly obvious.
I would hasten to add, however, that certainly Richmond councillors in the past have attended a lot of meetings in other wards, and as chairs, the expectation is that actually they get out and support, as is the role of deputy mayor, to not just confine yourself to your place of residence, as we are all sworn an oath to the whole district. So I'd certainly like to point out it's not a case of Richmond councillors just remaining locked in their little urban centric.
Just in the interest of saving some time, don't go to Tapawera. So in 4.9, the responsibilities pay is all backdated. There's a gap between the chairs being backdated to today, as opposed to everyone's backdated to inauguration. I'm just wondering, is that fund discrepancy included in your figures, or is that lost?
Yeah, through the chair, that is a bit complicated, isn't it? Yeah, the way that has been split up, and we can only we can backdate the additional 3169 to all councillors to the day after you were sworn in, so the 18th. But the decision to appoint the chairs has only been made today, and so that is backdated to tomorrow. And the I have a lovely calculation that just splits all of that out and works out exactly what you are paid for the rest of the year.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if I want, if I'd like to move an amendment that
Well, you actually don't have to move an amendment if you move the resolution.
I'll move the resolution with the amendment that the 2 6-weekly chairs are on a similar wage.
Do you want it to be the upper one or the lower one?
It'll have to be a middle because you've got money to spend and you can't. You'd have to take from one to give to the other.
Or you're going to have to do that. It has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. To keep the balance of funds, you've got to move some out of the one that's paid the same as the other chair down to the meeting, whatever it's called, briefings chair.
Yeah. If that's what you're moving, that's what you're moving.
So that's what I'm moving. If somebody wants to do any figures, put them up. But
through the chair, I'll need a few minutes to. So what would you like?
I just think there should be more pay parity between the two committees meeting, or the committee and the briefing chair that meet 6 weekly.
Okay, I just add that it's not the allocation that really it looks at the responsibilities of the chairs.
I think So I think we've explained that clearly. It's not about time commitments. It's really about the responsibility and the added challenge that comes with chairing decision making. But Councillor McNamara is moving the resolution, so
yeah. And my point was that's a skill ability to handle the meeting as opposed to anything else. But that's what I moved.
Councillor Woods.
Mayor, can I clarify Dean's resolution? So he's asking to split the 3 chairs equally. Is that
no?
Sorry.
So it's all right, Councillor Greening. So I'm sure Dean can explain himself.
He was doing a really good job. So one of the standing committees meets 4 weekly, so they have a greater responsibility. One of them meets 6 weekly, as does the briefings chair meeting meets 6 weekly. So I think they should be on a more equal parity.
Right. Robin.
Sorry, through the chair. I can give you the figures, but you'd have to give us a few minutes to get the amendment done if we could take an adjournment.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get the figures sorted, because I don't think the figures really matter to the debate or the discussion. So you work on the figures while we continue with the discussion. It's not really about what the dollar number is. It's about whether there should be or shouldn't be a difference in recognition. Deputy Mayor Murray.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Like I get the intention in terms of the weak parts, but as Deputy Chair of the Environment and Regulatory Committee last term, that work is immense. So I was really fortunate that the Councillor Hill, who was the chair, involved in a lot of those things. But even as a councillor, you will come across regulatory inquiries and concerns from your community that you're going to have to raise with staff and probably the chair of that committee. So I just sense test the responsibilities of chairing the regulatory committee, and it's not discounting the new one, but certainly that's a big committee. And it's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of stuff to be over because it's regulation based. So I do challenge lowering that particular chair role.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Other comments and/or fear? It's always tricky discussing remuneration. So for my 2 cents worth, I think I made it fairly clear. I genuinely support Councillor Murray's position. I think the regulatory committee particularly, and if you think about a lot of the debates about regulation and rules, and the chair of that committee has to deal with a whole lot of issues that will be brought to them after they've escalated their way up through the various parts of council where people are dissatisfied with the regulatory outcome, and trying to resolve those issues can consume an enormous amount of time. So I think that by definition kind of makes it a distinctly different role. That is not just the chairing of the committee meeting. It goes far beyond the chairing of the actual meeting. So again, I don't support the approach. I think recognising the chair of that regulatory committee is pretty much essential given the role. Councillor Ellis.
Just I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, yes. Enough. Sorry. My bad. Yeah, the beneficiaries one way or the other. Yeah, acknowledged. Councillor Mailing.
If the amendment fails, I'm happy to move the original motion.
Foreshadow that. Thank you. Do you need the exact numbers? No. Okay. Tie-ho on the exact numbers. I'll look to put the resolution. Oh, I think it was seconded. It was either seconded by Councillor Greening, certainly seconded it. I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against? I'll do a show of hands. All those in favour, please. So you're voting on Dean's resolution, which effectively equalises the two. Yeah. So it is. So show of hands. Those in favour, please say aye. 1, 2, keep them up. 3, 4, 5, 6. Against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the resolution is lost, and I now have a foreshadowed resolution from Councillor Mailing.
Yep, happy to move the original resolution.
Okay, thank you. So the original resolution has moved Councillor Mailing, seconded Deputy Mayor Maru. I don't think there's a need for a lot of extra debate, although you can now ask a question, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. So my question was, in the course of the workshop to determine the terms of reference for the information forum, and we discover that it is actually a reasonably involved position, will there be a chance to review it if we uncover something in that terms of reference?
Robin, opportunities to review the remuneration for whatever reason, including the one that
for whatever reason, you can review that at any other time. The Remuneration Authority it meets quarterly, and a determination is done quarterly, so that would affect the backdating and things like that.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I will put the resolution, noting the abstentions of Councillor Walker and Councillor Ellis. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The resolution is carried. Thank you. So we have, and we will have to adjourn rather than go into committee. Adjourn. And at midday for the Office of the Auditor General, but we do have some time, so I will now maybe jump to. Actually, we'll try to do. Is Jamie here? No, I was trying to do temporary road closure. That might have been relatively straightforward. Yeah, expenses. Yeah, actually, yeah. Well, no, this expenses should be reasonably straightforward. So we'll go with the allowances and recovery of expenses. So while we've got Robin and Steve there.
Through the chair, I'll take the report as read.
Thank you. Is there any discussion / debate / questions, or if someone is willing to move the Councillor Ellis?
I'm happy to move. I just wanted to ask a question regarding recommendation 4. Do we have a timeline on that? Given the environment and issues that have happened around the country, I think it's important that those that feel they need that and require that have the opportunity to adopt it relatively quickly. So is there a timeline, Amy?
I'll actually hand over to Amy, who will be the person writing that report.
Welcome, Amy. Over to you.
Thank you. So the report back to council, I would expect that early next year. We just need some time to engage with an expert to make sure we get the risk assessment correct and have a look at the costs and things associated with that.
Okay, thank you. So on that basis, are you happy to move Councillor Ellis? And there is a seconder, Councillor Mailing. Are there any further questions, Councillor McNamara?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the right around here. Is this the one where we have upgraded air travel potential?
Yeah, that's the one.
If it's over 5 hours or if there's some other extraordinary event? 4.2.2. I just wondered historically how much that's cost us.
Oh, the travel time allowance for eligible travel has been changed. Is that the one?
Through the chair, I think Councillor McNamara is referring to if somebody goes overseas.
Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah, we got, sorry.
Yeah, but what number is that?
It wasn't only overseas, was it?
No.
It's if it's,
I don't think
something,
refer
if
to
the
that.
schedule was a bit onerous or something, they could also upgrade or with the commission. I don't either because I'm having trouble because my annotations don't match the pages on the bottom.
There is no reference to that. No. No.
4.2.
I don't see anything in there for that. Sure, I read it
Travel
somewhere.
time, travel and accommodation.
We don't believe there's any reference to that in the report. Are you saying that you'd like a resolution around if you have to travel over 5 hours, you get upgraded, or?
No, I'm sure I read it somewhere, but like I said, I just can't find it. So,
Through the chair, it's 11.9D of the policy.
Right, so international travel discounted, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm on it. Discounted economy or economy class, so it is to be the first choice. Over 5 hours, work schedule, arrival, personal health, also make business class preferable. So, yeah, all right, sweet. Yeah, and yeah, no, I can't remember the last time.
How many hours is it?
Yeah, Aussie, but I can't even remember the last time we paid anyone to go anywhere overseas. But yeah, that's multiple times ago, and I suspect, I don't know whether I think we probably did make a contribution. It's unlikely to be something that eventuates, I suspect, in the next 3 years. Councillor Kennemont.
Thank you, through the mayor. So we have a determination here for a childcare allowance. Do we just solely in that area there? I'm thinking of home care for, say, dementia or, bedridden sort of allowance where you can't attend a meeting, but you've got to be because of your partner or wife, spouse has got just so is there any allowance for that?
Robin.
Through the chair, the childcare allowance, this applies to the Remuneration Authority has included that for the last triennium. They haven't referred to any other allowances, but it would be up to council if council wanted to look into adding additional allowances. If we were to make changes like that to the policy, then we would also need to put that through to the Remuneration Authority to approve.
Again, I think it's one of those, it was included by the Remuneration Authority. I think once you open up, there are so many circumstances that impact on people's ability to attend. And once you start trying to make allowances for any or all, I suspect it's a bit like the previous conversation. It becomes pretty complex, convoluted, and potentially less fair rather than more fair. So, yeah, I think sticking to the Remuneration Authority's position is probably the best course of action. Noting that we are at midday, so if people are happy for me to put the resolution based on people's questions, I will do so. All those in favour?
Look, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but I missed that. I want to. Can I go back to 4.2 about the petrol allowances, or do you want to vehicle allowances?
Yes, if it's very quick. It's sort of the opposite of
As I read it, you get $1.17 for the first 14,000 kilometres. I'm going to go way over that.
You are.
Way over that. And I read it that I get 37 cents a K after that. Well, that's nonsensical.
That's the rules.
I mean, it costs 37 cents a K reimbursement. It does go and doesn't cover petrol. I mean, that's the nature of the ward I've got. It's massive. Yeah.
Through the chair, that's also determined by the Remuneration Authority, and that's actually based on the IRD amounts.
What's that?
It's determined by the Remuneration Authority, so we can't change that.
We don't have any change.
Yeah.
So it's the sort of things you wish you knew before you put your hand in the ring.
And
hand up, hat in the ring.
So is this a Wellington-based decision?
It is.
That's absolutely fine by me. I shall sort it out.
Excellent. Oh. I will put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. So now we are adjourning the meeting. So we will take. Do you have any idea how long this might take?
Yes, have any questions on that?
Yeah, right.
Imagine the actual